The end of Windows 10 is coming quicker than most people realize. And the question is, should we upgrade or not? Are there issues with that? Well, today we're going to look at some of the issues with Windows 11, including one major update which bricked some SSDs. And then, of course, we'll throw in just a little bit about some of the recent reports on recall. Thanks for checking out this video by Switched to Linux. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel, leave us a like and a comment down below. And we are going to dive right on into this. And it kind of started with this article here that I found on, this is Darren Allen at Tech Radar. He says, I was about to upgrade to Windows 11, but decided to stick to Windows 10, and here's why. Now, he goes in this article. We're not going to cover through all of it. His biggest clincher right now is, hey, the way he uses his Microsoft account by syncing your settings, apparently you do not have to sync all of your files, although they're trying to push that nevertheless. And I don't know, I just don't trust Microsoft with the ever-changing and resetting toggle switches. But if you sync all of your settings back utilizing your Microsoft account, turn on that OneDrive stuff, then you can get that free support for an extra year as well. If you don't want to pay, of course, the $30. And the way he said he already uses his Microsoft account, that's fine. I think the problem is that not everybody already uses that, and that's why Microsoft is throwing out that carrot. Let's throw out some other dark pattern to get people used to syncing everything to the cloud. Of course, remember, any new installations on Windows 11 A, requires a Microsoft account, and B, requires a password. That doesn't require. It defaults to a passwordless Microsoft account, which in and of itself is problematic because of the fact that most people don't know how all of that is working. You know, I am in support of passkeys when properly used. The problem is most people do not understand what is going on with those. I have videos about that. However, the average person right now using Windows 10 is still trying to use local accounts in many cases. They do not want to log into an online cloud-based account in order to use their desktop computer, particularly if they're just doing local stuff or just basic computer usage. And so this is why Microsoft threw out this little carrot so that, hey, you just create that Microsoft account, sync it into here, and we'll give you one extra year free, baby. And that is definitely an issue. Now, his problem is that he says that his laptop, he did upgrade to Windows 11, and he found that that laptop on Windows 11 is very sluggish with File Explorer, whereas Windows 10 works just fine. Now, other people have said that the Windows 11 is now much faster than Windows 10. I'll leave that to you to figure out. But his ultimate reason for holding back deals with the bugs and the stability. So he's written here about the breaking the SSDs. We'll have a look at that in a brief moment here. And he's talking about some of the bugs and issues that have showed up. There's always a risk with upgrading things, and that's kind of why I like the more Debian approach or even the Linux Mint approach. It moves a lot slower versus the Arch, let's move quickly and break stuff approach. But even that, I've had fewer issues on Arch than, I hear reporting with some of these. So since he's a very risk-averse person, he's just kind of going to sit back with Windows 10, especially since the way he already uses his computer, he'll be able to get that free 1 year of support. But of course, some of the things, let's have a look at the recall situation next. One thing that we see, actually I'm going to start this because there's some references to recall in this one here. So this is the a Windows update is killing SSDs. And this appears to be confirmed. We have not heard a lot from Microsoft about it, but it was reported by a Japanese, I think it's the Japanese security firm, perhaps. So in this one here, he starts out the article discussing the fact that Microsoft is pushing this Windows recall, and right now it's limited to the Copilot Plus PCs. It is opt-in, although looking at the report from recall, it is something that they are trying to push on the OOBE screen. So this is when you first set up your computer. They're really trying to upsell this. They really kind of want you to turn this on if it is available for your computer. So is it going to remain with that? Because we also know that people have figured out how to get it working without having your NPU on the board. Some of the original testing of it demonstrated it could, and there's been some people that say they can get it to work without it. So we'll see. Now it does say there's no guarantee it will stay limited to those devices, which raises questions about how much control users actually have left. Of course, with recall, let me just jump into this really quick. We're not going to cover this video here, this article here, but this is August 1st. The Register did some extensive testing of Microsoft Recall and found that it was still able to identify and record a lot of things. They said they were okay if things were blatantly listed as password or social security number or credit card. Windows Recall was pretty smart, even on a text document, to not record those things. But if you were using abbreviations like SOC for social security number, and if you were just had a list of things on a notepad file that exactly what it is, but it doesn't explicitly say usernames and passwords, it would screenshot all of those. And so looking at Google Chrome's password manager, Recall filtered it out. However, if you were doing, they even took a screenshot of that with the snipping tool, displayed it, and it also was able to block that out. But when you just listed usernames and passwords, then it was able to show those. I think that's what this picture is here. You see Stuff, Paramount Plus, and this is clearly, if a human were to look at this file, you'd say, oh yeah, that's definitely a list of passwords. Let's go ahead and get on into his Paramount Plus account now, but it's not actually blocking those out. SSN, SS number, social security number, it will block all that out. But if you abbreviate it with SOC, it still captures all of the digits. So here's a picture of that. Now, the other thing that was interesting here is I recall them saying at one point in time, we fixed it so it's only going to capture the active window. I thought I had heard that. I thought I had read that. But you can see here that it's capturing not only the active window of Google Chrome, but it is also capturing the text file next to it, where you can see that it, instead of saying SSN, which would be blocked out, it says SOC, but it's clearly in the format of an American Social Security number. And so that is definitely something that they didn't get right. They said on PayPal, it successfully on the login screen, it did not record your password, but it did record your username. And it also recorded the transaction page, which if you have somebody's username and transaction page screenshots, well, you actually would have the ability to do a social engineering attack. They found that passports, if a full passport was visible, but if you partially obscured the passport, it was still recorded. And so there was a lot of issues with it still. Of course, this prompted Brave browser, and we did a video on it about that Signal, both Signal and Brave browser have put in the code that the program right now apparently respects that makes it private so that Recall will not record it. So that's really what's going on with the Recall updates. But now let's go ahead and jump back over to what's going on with the hard drives. So this is a Japanese person. This was translated from Japanese by Grok, so hopefully it's accurate. If there's any, just ignore anything in here about Mecha Hitler or anything related to that, okay? Grok apparently is insane, but let's go ahead and take it at its word for this. This is KB5063878, is the Windows 11 update. What happens here is the smart data on the drives is becoming inaccessible. In some cases, the drives completely disappear from being visible. In some cases, a reboot will fix that. What seems to happen is if you have an SSD with over 60% usage and you are transmitting a 50 gigabytes of continuous writing, this is what's causing both hard drives and SSDs to seem to vanish. So the test suggests the, is it Phison? I'm guessing that is the name you pronounce this. Phison NAND controllers are relatively prone to the issue, with DRAM-less models from the same company tending to exhibit issues at lower write volumes. And it was similar to the Western Digital SN770 HMB issue, of course, which, remember, a Windows update broke those a while back, and it took a firmware update from Western Digital to actually fix it. So there you have it. So what happened here, with more information over on NeoWin, what he did here is he basically was running a large amount of data. So in this case, they had a bunch of files in a zip drive and moving that over to extract them onto it. Because if you're moving a lot of files, it takes longer time than if you move one big file and then extract the file on the disk. I've experienced that a whole lot interfacing with web servers. Way easier to upload the zip file and extract it in situ. So that is what they were doing. And what they found is that if the hard drives exceeded a 60% controller usage, transmitting over 50 gigabytes of continuous write, SSDs and HDDs on Windows 11 after this update had been pushed, then it would actually cause the drives to completely break. And so in this case here, they tested a bunch more information, and they were able to show a variety of different Western Digital, Samsung, Seagate, Consor, Crucial, a lot of different drives in here, and they were running different tests. So this tells you what type of drive it is, the size of the drive. So you can see that this one is a SATA. These are NVMEs. Here's a SATA M2. Here's a regular SATA. Rest of them are NVMEs. And so the first result, if you were able to restart it and everything worked, then that was good. This one here, they prepared number 2. They prepared the 62.42 gigabyte file containing 150 video files, each approximately 250 megabytes, compressed into an 7Z archive. Write that and then decompress it when the archive is written in step 2 within the storage device, and write to the storage device. So if it says good, there's no errors. NGL1 and 2 is not good. Levels 1, levels 2. So level 1 means the drive is inaccessible, recovered by booting, and not good. 2 is the drive becomes inaccessible even after a reboot. So you see that a few of these drives turned into the Western Digital Blue, and no surprise there, I guess. Those ones were good. Here's these ones here just after the first step were not good. Most of the drives you can see here were recoverable after reboot. It looks like the Western Digital Blue is the one that was not recoverable after the reboot, but there were a lot of them that did have some problems. So Phison responded back. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. I am unfamiliar with this company. They have been made aware of industry-wide effects of these two updates in Windows 11 potentially impact storage devices. So they're looking into it, and we haven't as of yet heard anything from Microsoft on that yet. And then, of course, this is one firm in Japan that has looked into it, but it does cause enough of a concern. I mean, it's one thing if you update your computer and your Wi-Fi is knocked out. It's another thing when you update your computer and your hard drive is destroyed. That is a serious level thing. Now, the fact that we're seeing it from right now one source, but I mean, this is just a couple days old at this point in time. We'll have to see what happens in the future. These are certainly some issues worth thinking about. And so, of course, back to its FOSS, you could wait for the fix or you can move away. If you're fed up with Microsoft updates that can kill your drives, this is not the first time. Like I said, 2 updates in the last year have broken hard drives with Windows. That's insane. I've never seen an update in Linux break a hard drive. I've seen it break some files, but I've never seen it break an entire hard drive. Maybe it has happened. I don't know. I do not recall any of those. So of course they're recommending, as I would recommend, to look at Linux. So there's easy user-friendly distributions they have. and there's distributions for gaming, and there's some more specialized distributions. So best distributions for everybody. Let's have a look at these lists. I've not looked at these individual lists here, so let's go ahead and have a look. So the best Linux distributions for everyone here. So they say Ubuntu. I would move Ubuntu down on the list these days. They're still living on their popularity from a while ago, but it'd probably be better to look at other distributions. Ubuntu has been doing some things lately that is not making it the best for beginners. Linux Mint is definitely still, I think, the cream of the crop for beginners. This is the one I would recommend anybody. Elementary OS, I would probably avoid that. There's a lot of technical issues with it. It looks like a Mac, kind of behaves like it, but it's so locked down that even basic Linux instructions won't work. They also give you weird warnings if you're trying to install anything except the very few curated applications, so I would cross elementary off this list. MX Linux, I agree with this one on the list. I use MX Linux on my Raspberry Pi build for web design work. This is a very good user-friendly system, especially since it has a lot of extra tools built into it for, fixing a non-booting system, resetting cache, resetting the whole system. There's just so many good things that MX Linux has to offer, including the one-click to enable Debian backports. So if you want newer versions of software, you can do that. So it basically gives you Debian with a very solid, stable base and a GUI software manager for a lot of different features. Zorin OS, this is another excellent one for beginners. You have your choice of Windows type layouts, Mac type layouts, and a lot of extra tools and a lot of community support. So Zorin OS is definitely good. Pop OS, I think this one's kind of moving away from being particularly useful for new believers, new Linux users. And I owe this because while I love the Cosmic Desktop they're working on, the Cosmic Desktop is not the most user-friendly desktop environment. I like it. It's really good, but if you're brand new to it, I would probably not tell you to download this, especially since you have to download a separate ISO file depending on what your graphics card is, and a new user who's just a computer novice may not know what type of graphics card they have. So it's better to go with something that has all of the everything in there. So there's some, let's see, I think these is just servers. We're not going to jump into servers right here. All right, best Linux distributions that are most suitable for beginners. Once again, I think that's literally like the same article. Yeah, it's the same. Okay, they added Linux Lite to this list. I think Linux Lite is a good one here. Ubuntu-based distribution with a lot more tools for geared to the new user, and the layout is much more familiar. So that's good. Manjaro, I would support this one. They have a lot of good, also a lot of good tools. They also are one of the best styled Linux distributions. Like Linux Mint, Manjaro, has put a lot into making sure their distribution looks really good out of the box. So it doesn't look like you've installed something that, okay, this will kind of work, but it's sort of ugly. Manjaro does a great job on every one of their actual builds, no matter which desktop you pick. Somebody said the other day, Cinnamon looks really ugly outside of Linux Mint. For the most part, that's true, but have a look at Manjaro Cinnamon. It also looks really good. Let's see. They have Pop OS again. Peppermint. This one also is moving out of favor for the new users, mostly because while they used to have a very unified mission, right now they're just kind of scattershotting across a lot of different things. They've kind of lost their focus on exactly what they're doing, and they've effectively created a hodgepodge of it's a neat distribution. I still use this, although I'm still using the one from the original developer. Eventually that will be phased out, and I'm moving to Linux Mint XFCE to replace Peppermint. But that is definitely one I've used. Deepin, maybe for a new user. What I like about Deepin the most is they are one of the absolute most beautiful desktop environments, the Deepin desktop environment. The downside is it is deeply embedded in China, including a lot of the tools, a lot of the things inside of it. you may encounter some Chinese writing in places you may not expect it. And there are some questionable design choices. Of course, the Deepin desktop environment was booted out of, was it OpenSUSE, I think, recently, or was it Fedora recently? One of them recently, we did a video on it because they did not pay much attention to security. So I would probably not use this one because there are some security issues potentially with it. Let's see, 11 best distributions for gaming. I am not a gamer. I have no real comment. Pop! OS is a really good one for gaming. They have some extra packages in there that I know works for gaming. When I had to build a specific gaming system to play some of the old games that I have, I did build that on Pop! OS because it worked way better than anything else. The other ones, the only other one I have really heard of the most as far as gaming, Garuda Linux, really anything based on Arch, so Manjaro, possibly Garuda, Endeavor, anything based on Arch Linux, because Arch Linux is the one that Steam is working with to get your gaming working right. And then hacking and pen testing. I think Kali is the gold standard for that, but there are a number of other ones there as well. So if that is your thing, you can look into that. Of course, if that is probably your thing, you didn't need me to tell you that. You probably know what you're doing. So there's my brief take on that. I would certainly advise anybody that does not have a hard, fast need for Windows to test out Linux. You can still test it out on external hard drives, USB drives. You can test it out in a number of different ways without compromising your current system, and I'd encourage people to do that. So there are our thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll leave you a video on installing Linux onto a USB drive so you can test it out without compromising your software.